Hola clase, bienvenidos otra vez. Hoy es jueves, el 3 de septiembre de 2020. Hoy tenemos wrong slide. Hoy tenemos your para empezar. Work on this new Quizlet that's going to be with vocabulary we're using in today's lesson. Watch today's lesson that I'm making now. Keep working on your country project. Remember that is due Friday night at 11:59 p.m. Don't be late, please. That is 50 points that you want full credit on those points. You don't want to have 75% of your project graded, if that makes sense. So remember, my policy is 1 day late is 75%, 2 days late 50%, 3 days late is nothing. I've been lenient with that on the first few weeks, the first week and a half. I'm going to start tightening up on that a little bit. If you have issues, please email me. I'm pretty considerate, hopefully. So anyway, keep working on that, and your tarea is in La Clase. I will link that after I finish videoing this. So today's lesson, sadly, our online textbook is not working. So I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger. Our online textbook is not working. So I've emailed them with a request for help. So what I'm just going to ask you to do is to pull out your book. And actually, I could probably pull up the class Quizlet. That might be good. Hold on. Okay, yes, I pulled up the class Quizlet. I think this is going to work a little better so you can see on the screen. But please repeat after me when I read these so you can have practice pronunciation. Go ahead and just pause the video after I say something and repeat it. So anyway, the first one we have, abran los libros en la página. Remember the accent, we got to emphasize that, página. That means open your books to page. Next one we have cierran los libros, which is close your book. So you might be able to tell from this one and this one that we have libros, that means books. Libros is books. Página, that's page. ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? That is a super common phrase in Spanish. It means, how do you say? So if you're in my class and I would hold up this and I would say, ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice esta cosa? How do you say this thing? You would respond by saying, se dice la botella de agua, which means the bottle of water. You could also say, for example, if you want to know how to say something in Spanish, ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? Se dice mi celular or mi teléfono, right? ¿Cómo se escribe? That means how do you write, or how is it spelled, sorry. Escribir means to write, but ¿cómo se escribe is like how is it written, or how is it spelled. And again, similar to the format of the ¿Cómo se dice, you would answer it as se escribe, it is written or it is spelled, and then you could say se escribe A, B, C, J, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you're not going to spell something by saying the alphabet, but, so for example, you could say, ¿Cómo se escribe tu nombre? How is your name spelled? Se escribe S-A-N-O-R-I-T-A. That's señorita, right? So that's how you respond to that sort of question. ¿Comprendes? Do you understand? You could also say entiendes. ¿Comprendes? Levanten la mano. Raise your hand. That is something I always have to remind my students in person is levantamos la mano. We raise our hands. Más despacio, por favor. If I'm going too fast, más despacio. That means more slowly, please. The opposite of despacio is rápido. Rápido, más rápido, por favor. No sé. This one is commonly used in a Spanish classroom. It means, I don't know. So if I say, ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice esta cosa? ¿Cómo se dice esta cosa? You might say, no sé. No sé cómo se dice esta cosa. I don't know how to say what that is. ¿Qué quiere decir? That means, what does this mean? So, ¿qué quiere decir número? For example, ¿qué quiere decir número? I could respond by saying, quiere decir number. So you can ask me that for different vocabulary. ¿Qué quiere decir? What's another one? ¿Qué quiere decir lápiz? Oh, lápiz quiere decir pencil. Repitan, por favor. That's simply, please repeat. Por favor, remember, is please. Saquen una hoja de papel. Papel looks like paper. Una hoja is one sheet of, remember our de means of, papel, that is paper. So saquen means take out. Saquen una hoja de papel. Siéntense, that means sit. Siéntense, sit down. Levántense, that means stand up. Levántense, siéntense. So remember, levanta la mano, that means raise our hand. Mano is hand. Levantan la mano. Siéntense, sit down. ¿Tienen preguntas? Super important in Spanish. That means, do you have questions? ¿Tienen preguntas? So pregunta, important note, is pregunta is question. Pregunta. Verdad, right? That's all it means, is right. So if I say, ¿Qué día más maravilloso, verdad? That means what a marvelous day, right? Verdad? Completa la conversación. Now using our cognates, which remember that means a word that sounds super similar and we already know what it means because we know it in English, you should be able to decipher that this is saying completa, complete, la conversación, complete the conversation. What about contesta las preguntas? We just learned that pregunta is question, so contesta means answer. Answer the questions. Escoja la palabra or la respuesta. Respuesta, you can kind of think response. Palabra, that means word. So choose the word or answer. Choose the word or answer. Escribe, we already talked about this earlier, and the como se escribe is how is it written or how is it spelled. So escribe means to write. Escucha, that means to listen. So if I say escúchame, listen to me, right? Escucha. Explica, explain. That's a pretty easy one for me to remember. Explica, explain. Indica, indicate. Si es cierto or falso. Si means yes, but in this case, you can notice we don't have an accent above the I. So this actually, without an accent, means if. So indica, si, indicate if, is cierto or falso, true or false. Lee, this means to read. Lee, remember we're just reading this twice. Pregúntale, do you remember what pregunta means? It means question, but when it's a verb, it means to ask. So pregúntale means ask a otro estudiante. So ask an other student. Ask another student. Trabaja con otro estudiante. Trabaja con otro estudiante. That means work with another student. So if we see the patterns between these, we can kind of remember the vocabulary better. Trabaja, work again, en un grupo de. Remember, de means what? It means of. Grupo, that's group. So work in a group of. So I might say, trabaja en un grupo de 6 personas. Work in a group of 6 people. We're not going to do that with online learning, right? But hopefully you guys can come back someday and use these phrases. Estudia. Estudia means to study. So these are really important to know so that when I'm going to start hopefully writing some of your directions in Spanish, and I'm going to expect you guys after this unit to understand what it means. So just a few instances. I want you to try to think at home what the answer to this would be, and I'll tell you if you're right or not. So if I am speaking too fast, what are you going to say to me? I'm speaking too fast. Go ahead, pause this video, think through it. Correct answer is más despacio, por favor. Más despacio. What if you want to know how to say book in Spanish? You need to ask me how to say book in Spanish. You would say, ¿Cómo se dice book? ¿Cómo se dice book? And I would say, se dice libro. Se dice libro. What about you want to admit that you don't understand, or sorry, that you don't have the answer to a question. So you don't have the answer to a question, and I call on you, we'll say in class, what are you going to say in response? You would say, no say. No say. I don't know. Final thing that I have for you guys is if you do this activity number 23 on página 24, page 24, if you do that activity, that's helpful to kind of have a check for understanding. In page 25, you have a nice long list of your vocabulario, a summary of your vocabulary. So please look through that. And your test is going to be sometime next week. So be studying for that. It'll be sometime later next week. Other than that, that's all I have for you today. So please go back and do your en la clase tarea. Has what we just reviewed today, and it also has a little bit of review. So that's it. Adios, mis estudiantes. Gracias por estar aquí.